All right, let's dive into this explainer and plan our next big score. Today, we're unpacking an absolute titan of the fantasy genre, Scott Lynch's The Lies of Locke Lamora. Now, if you've ever been curious about fantasy heist stories, or maybe you've just wondered why this specific book has such a massively passionate fan base, you are exactly in the right place. We're going to break down exactly how this world, its characters, and its incredibly intricate scams all work together to create a true masterpiece. But before we pull off this job, it's absolutely crucial to understand the engine that drives this story. Listen to how the author himself describes it. He calls it competence porn with petty theft. He basically asks, what if Batman was raised by a street pickpocket gang? You see, the thrill of this book isn't about characters making dumb mistakes or stumbling through some idiot plot, not at all. The tension comes from watching highly trained, incredibly skilled professionals try to navigate impossible, ever-escalating disasters. We aren't just told these characters are clever. The real joy is watching the precise clockwork mechanics of their lies actually unfold. So here is the plan for our briefing. 1. Welcome to Camorr. 2. The Gentleman Bast's crew. 3. The art of the con. 4. Complications, magic, and murder. And 5. The heist fantasy legacy. Section 1. Welcome to Camorr, the sinking mercantile empire. Okay, first things first. Camorr isn't just some pretty painted backdrop. It is a living, hostile organism of a city that our characters basically have to parasitize just to survive. The author grounded this high fantasy setting in gritty, dirty realism by directly mirroring the corrupt, claustrophobic structures of historical Venice. He didn't just build a theme park version of Italy, right? He took the terrifying Venetian Council of Ten and twisted it into the Spider, Camorr's secret police chief who maintains state stability through absolute paranoia. The historical networks of informants, they become the Midnighters, who make sure the Spider knows your secrets before you even speak them. And the historical street thugs evolve into Camorr's organized criminal underworld, the gangs known as the Right People. It's a city built entirely on fear, mud, and isolation. But here's where it gets visually insane. To contrast that gritty Renaissance setting, you have this brilliant atmospheric dissonance. Looming right over these foul-smelling, dirty canals are the 5 towers made of elderglass. This is an indestructible alien precursor technology left behind by some ancient race. It catches light during the day and softly glows at night, creating this eerie, perpetual twilight that they call false light. It creates a wildly unique texture. I mean, the humans in Camorr, with their swords and their flintlock pistols, are essentially just squatting in a glowing post-apocalyptic graveyard of giants. It constantly reminds you that humanity is actually quite small in this world. Section 2. The Gentleman Bast's crew. Masters of Deception. So operating right under the snooty noses of Camorr's nobility are the Gentleman Bastards. This crew was forged by a guy named Father Chains. On the surface, Chains masquerades as a blind priest of a god of mercy. But in reality, the guy can see perfectly fine, and he secretly worships the nameless 13th god, the Crooked Warden, who is literally the god of thieves. Chains is this loving yet incredibly demanding mentor. He took these young apprentices and embedded them in a secret, cult-like criminal fraternity. He taught them languages, fine dining, disguise, philosophy. He basically gave them the tools to survive the brutal streets, not by hitting things harder, but through pure, polished guile. Now, you really have to understand the central partnership of this crew. In a fantasy genre that is usually obsessed with that lone wolf trope, we get an incredibly strong, codependent bromance. On one side, you have Locke Lamora, our main guy. He's the brains, master of disguise, insanely witty. But internally, he's a self-loathing, neurotic mess who is famously, hilariously terrible at sword fighting. On the other side is Gene Tannen, the muscle. But Lynch totally subverts the whole dumb brute stereotype. Gene is built like a tank and deadly with his twin hatchets, which he calls the Wicked Sisters. But he's also a scholar. He's mathematically literate, and most importantly, he's the emotionally mature anchor to Locke's chaotic genius. They literally couldn't survive without each other. And rounding out this deeply loyal found family are 3 others. You've got the Sansa twins, Carlo and Galdo, who are these identical jacks of all trades that provide a lot of the dark comedic relief. Then there's Bug, the super eager 12-year-old apprentice. He kind of represents the gang's last shred of innocence in this violent world. And finally, Sabatha. She's a master charmer and the object of Locke's total obsession. Now, she's actually physically absent for this specific story, but her influence heavily shapes Locke's reckless psychology. Put them all together, and this crew functions like a beautifully well-oiled machine. Section 3. The Art of the Con, Schemes and Structure. To show us exactly how these thieves operate, the author uses a really effective dual narrative timeline.
The story bounces back and forth between present-day events, where the crew is setting up a massive heist, and flashback interludes from their childhood. But these interludes aren't just lazy backstory filler. They deliberately show us the brutal training and the highly specific lessons they learned from Father Chains. It creates this incredible satisfaction because a past lesson will beautifully intersect with, and ultimately solve, a present-day disaster. It slowly reveals exactly why the Gentleman Bastards are so unbelievably good at what they do.
And all that masterful training builds up to their main present-day target, Don Salvara. The Bastards run a very clever variation of the classic Spanish prisoner con. And listen, they do it without a single drop of magic. First, they plant the hook. Locke literally invents a distant civil war just to convince the Don there's a scarcity of luxury brandy. Second, the evidence. Locke adopts his flawless disguise as a foreign merchant, complete with an accent. He even stages a fake robbery on himself so the Don can rescue him, which establishes deep trust. Finally, the squeeze. They exploit the Don's sheer mercantile greed. It is a breathtaking scam that relies 100% on human ingenuity, fake identities, and the untouchable arrogance of the rich. Section 4. Complications, magic, and murder. Of course, what's a heist without everything going horribly wrong, right? The central question driving the conflict is, what happens when Camorr's secret peace gets shattered? In this city, criminals are ruled by a brutal crime lord named Kappa Barsavi. They're allowed to operate under one strict rule: never, ever steal from the nobility. Well, our Gentleman Bastards have been secretly breaking that rule for years. Enter the antagonist, the Grey King. This ruthless, mysterious guy is out for violent revenge for his murdered family. He completely blows up the Kappa's criminal empire, murders key figures, and expertly frames Locke for it, dragging our thieves into a deadly gang war they absolutely did not want. And just to make things infinitely worse, the Grey King brings in a hired wizard known as a Bondsmagi. Now, the magic system here is brilliant because it's entirely balanced by economics. Bondsmagi are terrifyingly powerful. We're talking mind control, telekinesis, but they don't break the world's stakes because they're basically a mercenary guild that charges astronomical fees. Magic is a luxury good. On top of that, their magic usually requires knowing a target's true name. That makes information itself a deadly weapon, which perfectly explains why con men like Locke, who constantly operate under fake faces and false names, are uniquely positioned to actually survive in this world. Honestly, even when he is completely cornered, severely outmatched by literal magic, and dealing with some brutal, heartbreaking betrayals, Locke relies on his unparalleled arrogance to pull through. Picture this. He's staring down an immensely powerful Bondsmagi and this terrifying hawk familiar, and Locke's immediate reaction is just to say, "Nice bird, asshole." It's incredible. It perfectly encapsulates the dark humor and sheer bravado that makes him such an unforgettable protagonist. Section 5. The Heist Fantasy Legacy. When you step back and look at the ultimate score of this book, the major themes really hit hard. It completely champions brotherhood and found family over your standard romantic subplots. It takes a deep, unflinching look at the emotional toll and the literal cost of living a life built entirely on cleverness and lies. It's a sharp look at class inequality, too, showing that surviving in a hostile, stratified world basically requires breaking the rules. Structurally, it just nails the mechanics of Ocean's 11 meets epic fantasy. The narrative tension isn't built on big armies clashing on a battlefield. It's built entirely on elaborate betrayals, deep loyalty, political maneuvering, and crazy, unexpected consequences. Since it dropped back in 2006, this novel became an instant classic. It's the brilliant first installment of the Gentleman Bastard sequence, and it immediately redefined modern fantasy. It proved that street-level thieves, armed with nothing but sharp wits, fake identities, and terrible attitudes, could be just as gripping, if not way more so, than your traditional chosen one with a magical sword. And the best part? You don't even need to read the sequels to enjoy this book. It stands beautifully on its own. If you're looking for an entry point to the genre that's gritty, smart, and ridiculously fun, this is it. All right, as we wrap up this explainer today, the only question I have left for you is this. If the secret piece was real, would you play by the rules and just scrape by in the shadows? Or would you dare to step out into the glowing false light, risk the absolute wrath of the spider and the Bondsmagi, and join the Gentleman Bastards on their next impossible job? Thanks for hanging out for this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.